They said family means everything, but what if your own family treated you like you were nothing? I was the unwanted daughter, invisible in my own home, until I turned that pain into power. This isn't just my story. It's revenge, justice, and the twist they never saw coming. Stay with me. I'm Jenna, 32 years old now, working as a cybersecurity analyst in Austin, Texas. People look at my life today and assume I've always had it easy. A good job, a nice apartment, stability, but they don't know what it took to get here. They don't know what it feels like to grow up in a house where you're seen as a mistake. I was born when my parents, Helen and Gregory, were both pushing 40. My sister Lena was already 5 years old by then, and from the very beginning, it was clear I wasn't the child they wanted. Mom used to say things like, "You came along when we thought we were done." She never said it with warmth. It was always flat, like talking about a storm that showed up uninvited. Lena had everything: a decorated room, piano lessons, shiny shoes for every season. I had secondhand toys and slept in the corner of her room until I was 10. If she was the sun, I was the shadow trailing behind. Dad wasn't cruel, just quiet. He drove a city bus for most of his life and came home tired. Always tired. I used to wonder if he even noticed when I was there. Mom worked part-time at a department store, and most of her energy went into keeping Lena happy or bragging about her to customers and friends. My Lena made the honor roll again, or she's so good with fashion, always picking out outfits for her friends. Meanwhile, I was the one cleaning up the dishes after dinner. The only real love I ever felt came from my grandparents, Eleanor and Walter. They were my mom's parents, both retired teachers, soft-spoken and gentle. Every weekday, my parents dropped me off at their house early in the morning. "You wanted her," my dad would mumble to them, jingling his keys. "She's all yours today." I didn't mind. Their house smelled like old books and cinnamon. Grandma made pancakes shaped like animals, and Grandpa helped me with my math homework. When I was sick, they sat beside me all night. When I had school recitals, they were in the front row, clapping louder than anyone else. I think they saw something in me my parents never bothered to look for. Lena didn't hate me, not exactly. She just acted like I didn't exist. She had her own world: makeup, boys, Instagram photos before that was even a big deal. She'd be sprawled on the couch talking to her friends while I tried to do homework quietly at the kitchen table. I used to sit there hoping Mom would notice I needed help, but she was always too busy making sure Lena's favorite shirt was clean for school. By the time I turned 11, Mom stopped cooking. "You're old enough now," she said one morning. "Dinner needs to be ready when we get home." No instructions, no recipes. Just a responsibility handed off like an unwanted task. I started with boxed mac and cheese and moved on to spaghetti. The first few meals were barely edible. No one thanked me. They just ate silently like I was invisible. Lena went to college in New York. Fashion and marketing. My parents paid for everything: tuition, apartment rent, even Uber rides when she didn't want to take the subway. I asked Mom once if I could join a summer coding camp. "We can't afford it," she said without looking up from her phone. "You'll survive." I knew better than to argue. At 17, I got accepted to 3 great universities. I still remember the excitement in my chest as I spread the letters across the table. My SAT scores were excellent, and I'd kept straight A's all through high school. I thought just maybe they'd be proud. "That's nice," Mom said, sipping her coffee. "But we can't help you with tuition. We spent what we had on Lena's wedding last year. We're still paying off that reception hall. But you paid for her college, too." That was different. Lena had potential. I felt something crack inside me that day. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just walked to my room, closed the door, and called Grandma. Within 10 minutes, she and Grandpa had driven over. I met them at the curb, tears already sliding down my face. Grandpa didn't say much. He didn't have to. He just held my hand as we drove back to their place. When we got there, he opened a dusty folder and laid out a stack of bank papers on the kitchen table. "We've been saving for you," he said, "since the day you were born." I stared at the numbers. Over $90,000. Enough to cover most of my college expenses. "But how did you?" We saw how they treated you, Grandma said, handing me a tissue. We had a feeling this day would come. That night, I packed my things. My parents barely looked up from the TV as I walked past with 2 suitcases. Where are you going? Dad asked, scratching his neck. To live with people who actually want me. They didn't even respond. I moved in with my grandparents, chose a university nearby, and started my new life. My days were filled with lectures, labs, and late-night study sessions. For the first time, I felt free to learn, to grow, to become someone who mattered. I poured everything into school and landed a summer internship with a cybersecurity firm in downtown Austin. I took the city bus every morning, same route my dad used to drive. Some mornings, I wondered if he ever saw me walking and just kept driving. Meanwhile, Lena's life started crumbling. Her fashion blog lost traction. Brands stopped sponsoring her posts. Troy, her husband, couldn't hold a steady job. They had a son, Eli, who was cute but often sick. My parents started funneling money to help them out, what little they had left. Eventually, Lena and her family moved back in with Mom and Dad. Into my old bedroom. I watched it all from a distance, checking in only with Grandma and Grandpa. I had nothing to say to the others. I had my degree. I had my job. I was building a life from ashes they left me in. But I had no idea that the biggest betrayal was still waiting for me, closer than I imagined. And it would change everything. The years after college felt like breathing clean air for the first time. I landed a full-time job at a cybersecurity firm in downtown Austin. At first, I was just another junior analyst working long hours and taking notes in meetings. But I learned fast. I studied patterns, observed threats no one else noticed, and developed tools to protect big companies from cyberattacks. Within 3 years, I was promoted to team lead. I had my own desk by the windows, a growing savings account, and a quiet apartment with no one to tell me I wasn't enough. My grandparents were proud. Grandpa started printing out every article that mentioned the company I worked for. Grandma kept a binder of my certificates and awards. We had dinner together every Sunday. Roast chicken, her famous cornbread, and stories from their teaching days. Those evenings grounded me. It felt like my heart finally had a place to rest. But the comfort didn't last. One rainy Thursday, Grandpa collapsed in the backyard. Heart attack. It happened so fast, I barely made it to the hospital in time. He was already gone. The silence in the room was unbearable. Grandma stood beside the bed, her small hand resting on his chest, tears sliding down her cheeks. She whispered his name like she was hoping he'd still hear it. 2 months later, I lost her too. A quiet stroke in her sleep. It was like her heart couldn't bear the weight of missing him. I was numb. I handled the funeral arrangements myself. Flowers, coffin, legal paperwork. My parents showed up, of course, Helen wearing oversized sunglasses, Gregory patting people on the back like he was the one comforting them. Lena didn't even pretend to grieve. She kept checking her phone, whispering to Troy about Eli's school schedule. The will was read in a quiet lawyer's office 2 weeks later. The room smelled like old wood and legal ink. I sat across from my parents. Lena and Troy slouched beside them like bored teenagers. To our beloved granddaughter Jenna, the lawyer began, adjusting his glasses, we leave our home at 1824 Hillcrest Avenue and the amount of $100,000. My hands went cold. Then came the rest. To our daughter Helen and her husband Gregory, we remind you that we gave your family $120,000 over the years to assist with education, medical costs, and Lena's wedding. We consider this our final contribution. I didn't look up. I didn't need to. I could already hear the air change in the room. What? My mother blurted out. That can't be right. The lawyer nodded. It's all documented. You mean to say, my father muttered, his voice tight, we get nothing? You already received your portion, sir. Lena turned to me, her expression unreadable. They gave you everything? I didn't answer. I just stood up, thanked the lawyer, and left the room. The next few weeks, I tried to return to normal. Work helped. I buried myself in new projects and ignored the string of calls and texts from my parents. But they didn't give up easily. One night, Mom called while I was eating dinner. Jenna, we need to talk. I sighed. What is it? Your father's health is getting worse. Our house isn't safe anymore. Too many stairs. We were hoping you could help us find a smaller place. I paused. You mean help you buy it? Well, yes, she admitted. But we'd pay you back. Eventually. I already gave you the house, I said flatly. We raised you, she snapped, as if that settled it. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, I'll think about it. Days passed. Then weeks. They started inviting me over for dinner. Home-cooked meals. Dad even bought a bottle of wine. They asked about my job, my apartment, my hobbies. It was strange. Like watching strangers wear my parents' faces. They were trying, and some part of me, some broken, foolish part, wanted to believe it was real. So I agreed. I'll help you buy a one-story place, I told them. Nothing big. Something safe. Simple. And I'll take care of the paperwork. Mom cried. Real tears. Dad hugged me. It was the first time he had done that in years. We started looking. After a few weeks, we found a modest, ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood. It was sunny, with a small garden and wide doorways. Perfect for two aging people with stiff joints and a growing need for peace. I paid for everything. Closed the deal in cash. The house was under my name, but I didn't tell them that, not yet. I planned to surprise them with a deed at their housewarming party. A fresh start for all of us. Maybe I thought this could be the beginning of something better. But the party never came. Week after week, I waited for an invitation. Every time I called, they dodged the question. We want it to be perfect, Mom said. Still figuring out the guest list, Dad added. Then one night I saw it. A Facebook post. Lena had uploaded a picture of the front porch, decorated with balloons and welcome signs. So excited for Mom and Dad's big day. The caption read, Can't wait for the housewarming party this weekend. Thanks to everyone who helped make this happen, especially my sweet husband, Troy. Dozens of comments, all confirming attendance. Photos of catering trucks and lawn decorations. I stared at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched. I called Mom. Hey, I said calmly, just wondering, have you picked a date for the housewarming yet? Oh, not yet, she lied. Still working on the details. My fingers tightened around the phone. Really? Because Lena says it's this Saturday. Silence. Who told you that? She asked. You did. I replied and hung up. That Saturday, I parked a block away and walked up quietly. The street was full of parked cars. Laughter and music spilled from the house I paid for. I stood by the window and listened. And after all these years, my father was saying proudly, we finally bought our dream home. My mother's voice followed. And Lena helped so much with the down payment. Always thinking of us. Unlike some people, she added. Guests chuckled. I stepped through the open front door. Actually, I said loudly, I think you've got that backwards. The room went silent. Heads turned. My parents froze. I walked forward, heart pounding. This house? It's mine. I bought it. And I was planning to give you the deed today. At your housewarming party. I pulled the folder from my bag and held it up. You never even invited me. My mother opened her mouth but said nothing. Lena didn't pay a cent. I continued. Neither did you. I did this because I thought maybe, just maybe, you were ready to change. I looked around the room. But now I know. You'll never change. I turned and walked out, leaving them speechless behind me. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. I wish I could say I walked away and never looked back. But betrayal doesn't let go that easily. It burns itself into your memory, into your bones. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on their faces that night. Shocked, ashamed, exposed. But more than that, I couldn't shake the part of me that still felt hurt. Not angry. Just hollow. After the party, they tried to call me. I didn't answer. My phone buzzed for days, calls, texts, even emails. I blocked them all. But I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I contacted my lawyer and arranged a legal notice. Since the house was still in my name, I had every right to take it back. And I did. I gave them 2 weeks to vacate. No arguments. No extensions. Just cold, clean legal truth. They didn't fight it. They moved out quietly, humiliated, and with nowhere else to go. They sold their old house. Yes, the one they should have stayed in from the start, and used the money to move into a cramped apartment at the edge of the city. And of course, they took Lena, Troy, and little Eli with them. A full house of broken dreams, blaming each other, I imagined.
Me?
I sold the house for $470,000 within a month. Clean sale. Good market timing. The moment the deal closed, I transferred part of the money to my investments and used the rest to buy myself something I never had growing up. Peace. A new apartment downtown, modern and quiet, with wide windows that let in the sunrise. No noise, no chores dumped on me, no expectations. Just space. And silence.
And me.
Still, I couldn't pretend it didn't affect me. That kind of betrayal doesn't fade quickly. I thought they wanted a relationship. I thought they cared. And maybe a small part of me, as foolish as it was, wanted to be chosen just once. But it never happened. And I finally understood why. They were never going to see me. Not really. Not for who I was. Only for what I could give them. I stopped thinking about them altogether, until one day, I got a call from an unknown number. I never answer those, but something made me pause. I let it ring. Then it rang again, same number. I answered. Jenna? It was my aunt, my mom's sister. I hadn't heard her voice in years. I know we haven't talked, she said gently, but I thought you should know. Your dad's been in the hospital. I said nothing. Heart issues. They're serious. Your mom, she's not handling it well. I took a deep breath. Why are you calling me? She hesitated. Because she won't. Because she's too proud. But she's scared. I didn't promise anything. I just hung up. A few days later, I found myself driving to the hospital.
I don't know why.
Maybe some part of me still needed closure. Maybe I wanted to see it for myself, to see what became of them when all the lies crumbled. When I walked into the hospital room, my mother looked like a ghost. Thinner, paler. Her hair pinned back, hands folded nervously in her lap. My father was asleep, hooked up to beeping monitors. She looked up and froze. Jenna. I sat down. I heard. She nodded, eyes welling with tears. He's tired. He's not the same. I stayed quiet. You didn't have to come, she whispered. But I'm glad you did. There was something about her voice, softer, almost human again. For the first time in years, she wasn't performing. We talked. Nothing deep. Just surface-level things. The weather. Eli's school. How Lena was trying to pick up freelance work again. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't cruel either. Before I left, she stopped me. We messed up, Jenna.
We know that now.
We took you for granted. I don't know if we'll ever fix it, but I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. I nodded. I didn't say it's okay. Because it wasn't. But I didn't walk away angry. I walked away free. In the weeks that followed, I got back to my routine. I focused on work, joined a mentorship program to support young women entering the tech field, and started volunteering in my grandparents' names. Every time I spoke at a school or helped a student figure out her first lines of code, I felt like I was giving back the love they gave me. But just when I thought the story had ended, another twist showed up. I was doing laundry one evening when my building's doorman called up. Ms. Rhodes? You have visitors?
Who?
Your sister. And a child. She says it's urgent. I nearly dropped the phone. I stepped into the lobby and there she was. Lena. Holding Eli's hand, eyes red and swollen. She looked exhausted. Worn down in a way I'd never seen before. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I didn't know what to say. I didn't trust her. But something in her face, fear, maybe, made me nod. 5 minutes, I said. That's all. We sat in the lounge. Eli played quietly with his toy dinosaur. I'm not here to ask for money, she started.
Good.
She glanced at her son. I didn't know. I didn't know how badly we treated you until I watched it happen to Eli. Mom favors him, yes, but it's different now.
Cold.
Like she's just not present. And Troy's gone.
Gone.
He left last month.
No job.
No money. He just walked out. I don't even blame him anymore. I blamed you for a long time, because Mom always made it seem like you were the problem. But now, I think you were just the mirror. I stayed silent. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But I wanted you to know. I see it now. I see you now. She took Eli's hand and stood to leave. Thank you, she said, and for the first time, I believed she meant it. I watched them walk away, a mother and child wrapped in quiet grief. And still, I didn't feel sorry. I felt calm. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just living well enough to be the last one standing. It's strange how life circles back. How people who tried to break you eventually come to you. Not with pride, but with quiet apologies, bruised egos, and open hands. But I wasn't looking for apologies anymore. I wasn't looking for anything. I had already moved on. A few months after Lena showed up at my apartment, things began to settle. My work was steady, my savings were growing, and the mentorship program I'd joined had taken off. I started leading workshops for young women in tech. Girls who reminded me of myself at 16, desperate to prove they mattered. I poured myself into them the way my grandparents once poured everything into me. It felt good.
Clean. Real.
Then one late afternoon, I got a letter. Not a text. Not an email. An actual handwritten envelope slipped into my mailbox. It was from my mother. Inside was a short note. Jenna, I know you may never forgive us, but I wanted you to know your father passed away last night. He asked for you. We will be holding a small service on Saturday. If you don't come, I'll understand. Mom. I sat there holding the letter for a long time. I thought I'd feel nothing, but I did feel something. A quiet, strange ache I couldn't name. Saturday came. I didn't dress in black. I didn't cry. But I went. The funeral was held at a small church on the edge of Austin. Maybe 20 people attended. Family friends, a few of my aunt's neighbors, Lena and Eli, sitting quietly in the front row. My mother looked thinner than before, her face lined with age and regret. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She just nodded, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. I didn't sit beside her. I stood near the back and listened as the pastor read a few kind words. Nothing dramatic. Nothing dishonest. Afterwards, Lena approached me outside, holding Eli's hand. Thanks for coming, she said. It meant a lot to her. I nodded. You know, she continued, looking down at her son, he asks about you sometimes. I think he remembers that night in your apartment more than I thought. Keeps asking why his Aunt Jenna doesn't visit. I've been busy, I replied softly. Would you ever? I don't know, want to come over? Just to see him? Maybe have dinner sometime. I hesitated. I'm not asking for money, she said quickly. I swear. Just, maybe we could start again. For him. Not for me. I didn't give her an answer right then. I wasn't sure I had won. But that night, when I sat in my quiet apartment, I thought about it.
About Eli.
About what it would mean to let even a small piece of that past in. A few weeks later, I did visit. I brought a science kit for Eli and helped him build a mini volcano in the kitchen. Lena made spaghetti, surprisingly well, and we talked, not about the past, but about the present. She seemed different. Humble. Human. We didn't become best friends. But we became something. Something better than we'd ever been before. As for my mother, I visited her once more, months after the funeral. She was living in a small senior apartment, plain but clean. She didn't look surprised when I knocked. I thought maybe you'd come, she said, stepping aside. We didn't talk about Dad. Or the house. Or the party. We talked about ordinary things. Groceries. The weather. She showed me a photo of my grandparents from their wedding day. Her hands trembled as she passed it to me. I kept this, she said. I know they loved you more than anyone. And I understand why. I didn't reply. I just nodded, tracing my thumb over Grandma's smiling face. Before I left, She said something I'll never forget. You didn't need us to become who you are, but I needed you to remember who I was supposed to be. That night, I walked out of her apartment and knew I'd never be angry again. Because I had already won. Not in the flashy, dramatic way people expect revenge to unfold, but in the quiet, satisfying way life sometimes balances the scale. I built a life on my own. I learned to love myself when no one else did. I earned everything with my own hands. And now, I teach girls like me that they can do the same. My grandparents would be proud. I can still hear Grandpa saying, "The best things in life aren't planned." He was right. I wasn't planned. I wasn't wanted. But I became something better than they ever expected. And now I live with peace. Not because they changed, but because I did. I'll have a family of my own someday. And my children will never have to earn my love. They'll never beg to be seen. They'll never wonder if they matter. Because I know what it's like to grow up in silence. And I'll make sure they never feel that way. Not even for a second.